Number 1. Darren Sharper. Some criminals strike in a moment of rage. Others hunt methodically, repeatedly, leaving a trail of victims across state lines. Darren Sharper was a predator who used his fame as a weapon. 5-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion, a safety known for reading offenses and making game-changing interceptions. Darren Sharper's NFL career spanned 14 seasons with the Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings, and New Orleans Saints. He retired in 2011 with respect, accolades, and a broadcasting career ahead of him. But behind the charisma lurked something monstrous. Between 2013 and 2014, Sharper orchestrated a pattern of violence across 4 states. He used his celebrity status to lure women to hotels and parties. Once there, he drugged them with sedatives slipped into their drinks. When the women lost consciousness, he assaulted them. The victims numbered at least 16, though investigators believe there were more who never came forward. The attacks occurred in Louisiana, Nevada, Arizona, and California. Each time, the pattern repeated. January 2014, Los Angeles police arrested Sharper after 2 women reported being drugged and assaulted at a hotel. As detectives investigated, more victims emerged from other states, each describing identical experiences. The evidence was overwhelming. Drug residue in glasses, security footage showing him entering hotel rooms, testimony from multiple victims across state lines. Sharper initially denied everything. Then, faced with evidence from multiple jurisdictions, he accepted plea deals. In March 2015, he pleaded guilty or no contest to charges in all 4 states. The federal government prosecuted him for distribution of drugs with intent to commit rape. November 2016, a federal judge in New Orleans sentenced him to 18 years in prison, running concurrent with a 9-year state sentence. The judge rejected his lawyer's request for leniency, stating that Sharper had lack of remorse and was a danger to society. Victims gave emotional testimony about how his attacks destroyed their ability to trust, to feel safe, to live without constant fear. Today, Darren Sharper sits in federal prison. His earliest possible release date is 2033, when he'll be 58 years old. His Super Bowl ring means nothing. His Hall of Fame credentials vanished. Sharper's calculated predation was a pattern built over time. Number 2. Aaron Hernandez. From a $40 million contract to a prison cell to a suicide note written in blood. Aaron Hernandez's fall was as spectacular as it was tragic, revealing a double life that shocked the sports world. Aaron Hernandez seemed to have everything. A star tight end at the University of Florida, helping the Gators win a national championship. The New England Patriots drafted him in the 4th round in 2010 despite character concerns. By 2012, he'd signed a 5-year, $40 million extension, becoming one of the NFL's highest-paid tight ends. He caught touchdowns from Tom Brady, played in a Super Bowl, and seemed destined for greatness. But Aaron Hernandez was living 2 lives. One in NFL stadiums, catching passes and signing autographs. Another in the streets of Massachusetts, surrounded by violence. June 17, 2013. Odin Lloyd, a semi-professional football player dating the sister of Hernandez's fiancée, was found dead in an industrial park near Hernandez's home in North Attleboro, Massachusetts. He'd been shot 6 times. Security footage showed Lloyd getting into a vehicle with Hernandez and 2 associates. His body was found less than a mile from Hernandez's house. June 26, 2013. Police arrested Hernandez. The Patriots released him within 90 minutes. The evidence was damning. Text messages, security footage, shell casings at his home matching those at the murder scene, and a rental car traced to him. Prosecutors argued Hernandez killed Lloyd because Lloyd had witnessed him commit violence at a nightclub and Hernandez feared he'd talk. The trial began in January 2015. Prosecutors painted Hernandez as a man who used violence to solve problems. The defense claimed prosecutors couldn't prove who pulled the trigger. The jury didn't buy it. April 15, 2015, the verdict: guilty of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But there was more. Prosecutors also charged Hernandez with a 2012 double murder in Boston. Daniel De Abreu and Safiro Furtado were shot and killed in a drive-by shooting after an encounter with Hernandez at a nightclub. The trial began in February 2017. In a shocking verdict on April 14, 2017, Hernandez was acquitted of both murders. 5 days later, on April 19, 2017, correctional officers found Hernandez hanging in his cell at the Souza Baranowski Correctional Center. Bed sheets formed a noose attached to the window. He'd written John 3:16 in blood on his forehead. He left 3 notes, one for his fiancée, one for his 4-year-old daughter, and one for his lawyer. He was 27 years old. An autopsy revealed Hernandez had stage 3 chronic traumatic encephalopathy, the most severe case ever found in someone his age. Researchers theorized repeated head trauma had damaged his impulse control and judgment. Because Hernandez died during his appeal, Massachusetts law initially vacated his conviction, a legal quirk that meant he was technically not guilty. The state's Supreme Court later overturned that ruling in 2019, reinstating his murder conviction. He remains one of the most analyzed criminals in sports history. Number 3. Jovan Belcher. There are crimes that shock and crimes that traumatize. What happened on December 1, 2012, traumatized an entire franchise, left a baby orphaned, and forced the NFL to confront uncomfortable questions about brain injuries and domestic violence. Jovan Belcher was a success story. Undrafted out of the University of Maine in 2009, he earned a roster spot with the Kansas City Chiefs through sheer determination. By 2012, he was a starting linebacker, respected by teammates, making a good living. He was dating Cassandra Perkins, a young woman he'd met years earlier. In September 2012, she gave birth to their daughter, Zoe. They were a family. But the relationship had problems. Friends later reported frequent arguments about infidelity, money, and their future. Belcher struggled with alcohol. He'd suffered multiple concussions during his career. The stress was building. December 1, 2012. Early morning at the home Belcher and Cassandra shared in Kansas City. His mother, who was visiting to help with their baby, was in another room. An argument erupted between Belcher and Cassandra then, gunshots. Belcher shot Cassandra Perkins 9 times. She died in front of his mother as 3-month-old Zoe slept in another room. Belcher's mother called 911. Belcher fled in his car. He drove to Arrowhead Stadium, arriving around 7:50 a.m. He found general manager Scott Pioli and head coach Romeo Crennel in the parking lot. Both men would later describe the surreal conversation. Belcher thanked them for everything they'd done for him. Then he said, "I did it. I killed her." Pioli and Crennel tried to talk him down, urging him to put down the gun he was carrying. Belcher listened for a moment, then walked behind a vehicle. Crennel and Pioli heard the gunshot. Belcher had shot himself in the head. He died at the hospital shortly after. The Chiefs played their scheduled game the next day, defeating the Carolina Panthers 27-21. The decision to play sparked controversy. Should the game have been postponed? Players wore memorial decals, and the team observed a moment of silence, but some questioned whether football should have continued so soon after such tragedy. Cassandra's family took custody of Zoe. They filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the Chiefs, arguing the team ignored signs of Belcher's deteriorating mental state. The case settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. An examination of Belcher's brain revealed chronic traumatic encephalopathy, evidence of damage from repeated hits. Jovan Belcher's case forced the NFL to examine its protocols for identifying players in crisis. It highlighted the devastating consequences of untreated brain injuries, domestic violence, and the importance of intervention. Our next player was convicted of causing death, and the details are absolutely horrifying. Number 4. Henry Ruggs III, November 2, 2021. Las Vegas Raiders wide receiver. Henry Ruggs III, the 12th overall pick in the 2020 draft out of Alabama, was driving his Chevrolet Corvette through Las Vegas at 3:39 in the morning. He'd been drinking heavily. His blood alcohol level would later measure 0.161, twice Nevada's legal limit. His girlfriend sat in the passenger seat. He was traveling at 156 miles per hour in a 45-mile-per-hour zone. Tina Tintor, a 23-year-old woman, was driving her Toyota RAV4 home with her golden retriever, her dog Max, in the back seat. She had no chance to react. Ruggs's Corvette slammed into her vehicle at such speed that both vehicles erupted into flames. Ruggs and his girlfriend stumbled from the wreckage. Tina Tintor and her dog were trapped inside the burning RAV4. Witnesses rushed to help but couldn't reach them. The heat was too intense. Security footage from nearby businesses captured the horror. Tina and her dog burned alive while bystanders screamed and desperately tried to break windows. The fire burned so hot that investigators later struggled to determine exact cause of death, though evidence suggested Tina was alive when the flames consumed her. Ruggs remained at the scene. Officers found a loaded firearm in his wrecked Corvette. His girlfriend suffered serious injuries. He showed obvious signs of impairment, slurred speech, inability to stand steadily. He was arrested and charged with DUI resulting in death, reckless driving, and possession of a firearm while under the influence. The Las Vegas Raiders released him immediately. His $16 million guaranteed contract vanished. His promising NFL career ended before it truly began. Initially, Ruggs pleaded not guilty. His lawyers explored defenses, but the evidence was overwhelming. In November 2022, facing the possibility of decades in prison if convicted at trial, Ruggs changed his plea to guilty for DUI, resulting in death and vehicular manslaughter. August 2023, a Clark County judge sentenced him to 3 to 10 years in Nevada State Prison. Today, Henry Ruggs III sits in High Desert State Prison in Nevada. He'll be eligible for parole in 2027 but could serve the full 10 years depending on his conduct. He's 25 years old, his entire life ahead of him behind bars. Tina Tintor was 23. Her entire life stolen in an instant. Max, her loyal companion, died beside her. Our next player's crime was premeditated murder, carefully planned and brutally executed. Number 5. Ray CARRUTH. There are crimes of passion, crimes of opportunity, and then there are crimes so calculated, so coldly planned, that they reveal a darkness beyond comprehension. Ray CARRUTH didn't just commit murder. He hired it. January 1997. The Carolina Panthers selected wide receiver Ray CARRUTH in the first round, the 27th overall pick. He signed a 4-year contract and seemed poised for NFL success, but personal problems were already forming. CARRUTH began dating Sherika Adams, a real estate agent from Charlotte. Their relationship was casual until October 1999, when she told him she was pregnant. CARRUTH wanted her to have an abortion. She refused. He didn't want to pay child support or be tied to her for 18 years, so he made a decision to get rid of her. CARRUTH contacted Van Brett Watkins, an associate with a criminal history, and offered him money, $6,000, to solve his problem. CARRUTH provided Sherika's schedule and details about her vehicle. They planned the attack meticulously. November 16, 1999. CARRUTH took Sherika to see a movie, playing the role of caring boyfriend. Afterward, she followed his vehicle in her car, heading home. CARRUTH suddenly slowed down, blocking her BMW. Before she could react, Watkins pulled alongside her vehicle in another car and fired 4 shots through her window. One bullet struck her in the neck, another hit her back. She slumped forward, mortally wounded, but Sherika was tougher than they anticipated. Despite her injuries, she grabbed her cell phone and called 911. In a recording that would later be played in court, she gasped, "I was following my baby's daddy, Ray CARRUTH, and somebody pulled up beside me and just started shooting." Her words ensured CARRUTH couldn't escape. Paramedics rushed her to the hospital. Doctors performed an emergency cesarean section, delivering her son, Chancellor Lee Adams. The baby survived, but he suffered severe brain damage from oxygen deprivation during the attack. Sherika held on for weeks, but the damage was too severe. On December 14, 1999, she died. CARRUTH didn't attend her funeral. He was already on the run. Police found him hiding in the trunk of a car outside a motel in Tennessee. He'd packed snacks, cash, and bottles to urinate in, planning to hide until he could flee to Mexico. He was arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit murder, shooting into an occupied vehicle, and using an instrument to destroy an unborn child. The trial began in October 2000. Watkins himself testified, describing how CARRUTH hired him and provided information. CARRUTH's defense claimed he was innocent, that Watkins acted alone. The jury didn't believe him. January 2001, the verdict: guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, but not guilty of first-degree murder, meaning he'd avoided the death penalty. The judge sentenced him to 18 to 24 years in prison. Chancellor Lee Adams, the baby who survived, lives with cerebral palsy, requires constant care, and will need assistance for life. His grandmother, Sandra Adams, Sherika's mother, raised him. She fought to ensure CARRUTH paid child support from prison, which he did minimally. October 2018, after serving 19 years, Ray CARRUTH was released from prison. He gave interviews claiming he wanted to be part of Chancellor's life. Sandra Adams made clear that would never happen. CARRUTH eventually moved to Pennsylvania, where he lives today in relative obscurity. Van Brett Watkins, the triggerman, received 40 to 50 years and remains imprisoned. Number 6. O.J. Simpson. There are criminal cases, and then there's O.J. Simpson. A trial so massive it changed media, race relations, and how America viewed celebrity justice forever. Orenthal James Simpson wasn't just an NFL star, he was an icon. Heisman Trophy winner at USC, first overall pick in 1969, Hall of Fame running back who rushed for over 11,000 yards, the first player to rush for 2,000 yards in a season. After football, he became an actor, appearing in the Naked Gun films, and a pitchman for Hertz rental cars. He transcended sports, becoming one of America's most beloved celebrities. June 12, 1994, Nicole Brown Simpson, O.J.'s ex-wife, and Ronald Goldman were brutally murdered outside Nicole's Brentwood condominium. Both were stabbed multiple times. Evidence at the scene included a bloody glove, size 12 shoe prints, and blood droplets leading away from the bodies. O.J. Simpson had a documented history of domestic violence against Nicole. Police immediately considered him a suspect. June 17, 1994. Instead of surrendering to authorities, Simpson fled. His friend Al Cowlings drove a white Ford Bronco on Los Angeles freeways, while police followed in one of the most surreal moments in television history. An estimated 95 million people watched the slow-speed chase. Simpson eventually surrendered at his home. The trial began January 1995. It became a media circus. Television networks provided gavel-to-gavel coverage. The prosecution presented DNA evidence, blood samples, domestic violence history, and the infamous glove found at the crime scene. The defense, led by Johnny Cochran, argued police misconduct and planted evidence. The moment Simpson struggled to fit the bloody glove over latex gloves, Cochran delivered the line that defined the trial: "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit." October 3, 1995. After 9 months of testimony, the jury deliberated less than 4 hours. The verdict: not guilty on both counts. The decision split America along racial lines. Many Black Americans saw it as justice against a corrupt police system. Many white Americans saw it as a guilty man escaping through wealth and celebrity. But the legal system wasn't finished with Simpson. A civil trial in 1997 found him liable for wrongful death and battery. He was ordered to pay $33.5 million to the victims' families. He never paid most of it. September 2007, Las Vegas. Simpson and associates stormed a hotel room at gunpoint to steal sports memorabilia he claimed was his. He was arrested and charged with kidnapping, armed robbery, and assault with a deadly weapon. In October 2008, exactly 13 years after his acquittal, he was convicted on all counts. The judge sentenced him to 33 years with possibility of parole after 9. Simpson served 9 years at Lovelock Correctional Center in Nevada before parole in October 2017. He moved to Florida, where he lived quietly and posted occasionally on social media. He never admitted guilt for the murders. He never paid the Goldman family their judgment. April 10, 2024. O.J. Simpson died of cancer at age 76. The Goldman family issued a statement noting that he owed them over $100 million with interest, money they'll never see. Nicole Brown Simpson's family maintained silence, their loss permanent. Today, O.J. Simpson remains the most controversial figure in sports history. Number 7. Lawrence Phillips. Some athletes overcome adversity to become champions. Lawrence Phillips became a cautionary tale about talent wasted by uncontrolled rage that ultimately ended in tragedy. Phillips possessed devastating speed and power. He helped the Cornhuskers win a national championship in 1995. NFL scouts projected him as a first-round talent despite warning signs that everyone chose to ignore. September 1995, Phillips dragged his ex-girlfriend Kate McEwen down 3 flights of stairs by her hair after finding her with another man. He was suspended, then controversially reinstated by coach Tom Osborne just weeks later. Nebraska won another title, and Phillips declared for the draft. The St. Louis Rams selected him 6th overall in 1996, betting on his talent. That bet failed spectacularly. His NFL career became a series of violent incidents. He was released by the Rams after 2 seasons, bounced to Miami and San Francisco, then out of the league entirely by 1999. But the violence didn't stop when football ended. August 2005, Phillips drove his car into 3 teenagers after a dispute during a pickup football game. He was convicted of assault with a deadly weapon and sentenced to 10 years. While imprisoned at Kern Valley State Prison, he received additional time for assaulting his cellmate. His sentence grew to 31 years. Then came October 2015. Phillips got a new cellmate, Damian Soward, who was serving time for murder. On April 11, 2015, a confrontation erupted. Phillips strangled Soward to death in their cell. Corrections officers found Soward's lifeless body. Phillips was charged with first-degree murder, facing life without parole or potentially the death penalty. He never faced trial. On January 13, 2016, Phillips was found unresponsive in his cell at Kern Valley State Prison. He'd hanged himself. He was 40 years old. An autopsy later revealed he had chronic traumatic encephalopathy, the degenerative brain disease linked to repeated head trauma. Number 8. Michael Vick. Sometimes a fall from grace offers a chance at genuine transformation. Michael Vick's story is the rarest of outcomes. a criminal who served time, acknowledged his wrongs, and rebuilt both his career and reputation. Atlanta's electric quarterback, the #1 overall pick in 2001, Michael Vick revolutionized his position with unprecedented athleticism. He signed a 10-year, $130 million contract in 2004, becoming one of the NFL's highest-paid players. But behind the highlight reels, he was financing something horrific. Between 2001 and 2007, Vick operated Bad News Kennels on property he owned in Surry County, Virginia. The compound hosted dogfighting operations where pit bulls were bred, trained, and forced to fight to the death. Dogs that lost or refused to fight were executed by hanging, drowning, electrocution, or being slammed to the ground. Federal investigators later documented the deaths of at least 8 dogs through these brutal methods. April 2007, authorities raided the property following a drug investigation. What they found shocked even experienced law enforcement. Fighting rings, rape stands used to breed dogs, training equipment, and extensive evidence of animal torture. Vick initially denied involvement, claiming he merely owned the property and had no knowledge of the activities. That lie collapsed under federal investigation. In August 2007, facing overwhelming evidence, Vick pleaded guilty to conspiracy to travel in interstate commerce in aid of unlawful activities and conspiracy to sponsor a dog in an animal fighting venture. He admitted to funding the operation and participating in the execution of underperforming dogs. December 2007, a federal judge sentenced him to 23 months in Leavenworth Federal Prison. The Falcons suspended him. Sponsors terminated contracts worth tens of millions. Nike, Reebok, and others distanced themselves. He filed for bankruptcy. His fall was absolute. Vick served 19 months before his release in May 2009. The Philadelphia Eagles took a chance on him, signing him to a minimal contract. What happened next surprised many critics. Vick didn't just talk about change, he demonstrated it. He worked with the Humane Society, speaking to youth groups about animal cruelty. He lobbied for stricter animal welfare laws. His public contrition appeared genuine. On the field, he delivered a remarkable comeback. In 2010, he earned Pro Bowl honors and finished second in MVP voting. He played until 2015, eventually earning back much of what he'd lost financially. He paid his debts, including bankruptcy creditors. Today, Michael Vick works as an NFL analyst for Fox Sports. He continues advocacy for animal rights. His story remains controversial. Number 9. Ray Lewis. What happens when an NFL legend's name appears in a murder investigation, and the white suit he wore that night disappears without explanation? The answers remain frustratingly incomplete decades later. January 31, 2000. Super Bowl 34 had just concluded in Atlanta. Ravens linebacker Ray Lewis, already one of the NFL's most feared defenders, was celebrating with friends at a post-Super Bowl party. The night ended in tragedy. Outside the Cobalt Lounge nightclub, an altercation erupted. 2 men, Jacinth Baker and Richard Lawler, were stabbed to death. Ray Lewis and 2 companions, Joseph Sweeting and Reginald Oakley, fled the scene in a white limousine. The white suit Lewis wore that night was never recovered. Blood evidence placed him at the scene. Witnesses reported seeing the altercation. 2 men were dead, and an NFL star was a prime suspect. Lewis was charged with 2 counts of murder and aggravated assault. The trial became a media spectacle. Lewis initially told police he wasn't present during the fight, a statement that unraveled under evidence showing otherwise. Facing murder charges that could end his freedom, Lewis accepted a plea deal. In exchange for testimony against Sweeting and Oakley, prosecutors dropped the murder charges. Lewis pleaded guilty to obstruction of justice for providing false statements to investigators. June 2000, he was sentenced to 12 months probation. The NFL fined him $250,000. Sweeting and Oakley went to trial, where their defense argued self-defense. Both were acquitted. The murder weapon was never found. The white suit never surfaced. No one was ever convicted of killing Jacinth Baker and Richard Lawler. Lewis returned to the Ravens and continued one of the most decorated careers in NFL history. He won another Super Bowl in 2012, delivered one of the most emotional retirement speeches in sports history, and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2018 on his first ballot. He became an ESPN analyst, earning millions in his post-playing career. But the questions never disappeared. Families of the victims settled civil lawsuits. Baker's family received an undisclosed sum. They've maintained that justice was never truly served. Lewis has said he regrets being at the scene and wishes he'd made better decisions, but he's consistently denied involvement in the killings. Number 10. Plaxico Burress. Sometimes the criminal and the victim are the same person. Plaxico Burress learned that lesson the hard way when his own weapon nearly ended his life and definitely ended his freedom. February 3, 2008. Plaxico Burress caught the game-winning touchdown in Super Bowl 42, helping the New York Giants upset the undefeated New England Patriots in one of the greatest upsets in sports history. He was a hero, beloved in New York, on top of the world. 9 months later, he shot himself in the leg at a nightclub and destroyed everything. November 29, 2008. Late evening at the Latin Quarter nightclub in Manhattan. Burress carried an unlocked Glock pistol tucked into the waistband of his sweatpants. He wasn't licensed to carry a firearm in New York. The gun slipped. Trying to catch it, he accidentally squeezed the trigger. The weapon discharged, sending a bullet through his right thigh. Burress's teammate Antonio Pierce helped him leave the club to avoid police. They went to New York Presbyterian Hospital, where doctors treated the gunshot wound. Hospital staff, required by law to report gunshot injuries, contacted authorities. When police investigated, they discovered Burress had no permit for the weapon. New York has some of the strictest gun laws in the nation. The case became a test of whether celebrity could bend those laws. Mayor Michael Bloomberg publicly stated that Burress should be prosecuted to the full extent. He was charged with criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree. If convicted at trial, he faced a minimum of 3.5 years in prison. His lawyers argued for leniency, noting he'd harmed only himself and had no prior criminal record. August 2009, Burress accepted a plea deal and received a 2-year sentence. The Giants had already released him. His $35 million contract evaporated. Burress served 20 months at Oneida Correctional Facility before release in June 2011. The New York Jets signed him, giving him a chance at redemption. He played the 2011 and 2012 seasons, catching 17 touchdowns, proving he still had talent. He had a brief stint with the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2012 before retiring. Today, Plaxico Burress lives quietly, his playing days behind him.